Welcome back, my friends, to the show that never ends. We're so glad you could attend. Come inside, come inside.
Thank you very much for tuning in today to another episode of Expat Conversations with Michael Nolen. Of course, we are through the University of Guadalajara Institute of Innovation, Investigation, and Governance, which is headed up by Dr. Marco Antonio Cortez Gradado, and want to say thank you very much to Dr. Cortez for allowing us to do this program. Today, we are in Puerto Vallarta, Mexico, back where I started my broadcasting career many years ago through the radio at University of Guadalajara, and we're at a very, very special place called Andales. Andales is a restaurant that is owned and operated by the famous Jorge Zambrano. Mr. Zambrano's had this restaurant here, which is kind of the heart of the romantic zone as far as the gringos hang out down here in Puerto Vallarta. It's just a fabulous restaurant, open morning, lunch, dinner, have the famous medicine that he calls. They have their own brew of tequila, very, very good brand. So if you're ever in Puerto Vallarta and you want a great place to hang out, Jorge Zambrano's restaurant, Andales, just ask anybody, they know where it's at. And I want to say thank you again to Mr. Zambrano and all the staff here at Andales for allowing us to video here today. I've got two very important and special guests. I have Marvin Carter and Jesse Rivera. Did I say that right?
Yes, sir.
And there are with Post 12 of the American Legion here in Puerto Vallarta. And I'm going to kind of be quiet for a minute and turn the mic over to you all. And first of all, thank you very much for taking time to be on Expat Conversations. And let's talk a little bit about Post 12. And I know it's a newer post. When I first came to Puerto Vallarta, it was Post 14. That's kind of gone by the wayside. And they started new Post 12, 3 or 4 years ago?
We started Post 12 last March.
Last March. Mm-hmm. And you've got a lot of special projects going on, some up-and-coming events. And first of all, explain a little bit to the listening audience about your history. Mr. Carter, you're in the Marines.
Correct. And
kind of give a little history of your background real quick, and then how you got down here to Bay of Banderas, not by plane or truck or car or Hummer or whatever, but...
Or swimming.
Yeah, you could have swam. What brought you down here, and then also how long you've been here, and what your involvement is in the American Legion, and then also
I'm
Jesse.
the commander.
You're the commander.
I'm the commander. Mm-hmm.
Commander. I remember a couple of years ago I had the national commander from, I think it was Washington. I'm not sure exactly where his office was, but he was here visiting for a week or so and came on the radio show and had a great time and a lot of fun. So anyway, I'll leave it up to you all to explain what you all do and how you do it. And thank you very much, first of all, for your service in the military of the United States and keeping our country and all of us safe. Thank you.
I'll kick it off first with the post, and then we'll move on to the hubs. So, so we got the post up and running last March. So we've been rocking and rolling for a little over a year. Ever since that time, we've done a tremendous amount of stuff for the community. So far, with regards to veterans, to date, we've helped about 60 to 70 veterans register for what's called the VA Farm Medical Program, which covers all service-connected conditions. Treatment, whether you're talking about inpatient, outpatient, medications, things of that sort. Many veterans don't know that the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs actually pays for medical care outside the United States for its veterans, but only for service-connected care. And so one of the things we do at the Post is help our veterans get access to that care while they're down here. Many of them suffer from orthopedic conditions and mental health conditions that stem from their time in the military. And so we've got a network of hospitals and clinics down here that help those veterans access that care. We also help our veterans get access to their military service records. So he's probably helped, maybe 3 or 4 dozen veterans since we've been down here get access to their service records, which they use to file for VA disability claims and things of that nature. In addition to that, that's our first mission. Our first mission is to help the veterans, no matter where they are in the world, is the American Legion. The second mission that the American Legion has is to help the community. To that end, we've done a number of projects this last year since we've been getting the show on the road and everything like that. The first project we did was with Canica PV, which is a very, very great organization, the Children's Cancer Center, basically. And what we did is we helped them renovate their facilities, get up to code. We donated some supplies and everything, and it was really, really great. They're a tremendous organization, Canica PV. that helps mostly young girls that have cancer get treatment and the support and the resources that they need. That was our first project. We did that back, I think, in March.
Okay.
Our next project we did was in May or June, I believe, was with Casa Hogar, which is the local children's orphanage. You may have seen that we helped renovate that whole facility as well. We donated some food and supplies, and a number of our post members, including Dennis Jansen, who's our chaplain, donate significant amounts of time over there to teach English and do services over there. So we're very, very involved in the community. More recently, we've had in Veterans Day, we did a huge Veterans Day event here in Puerto Vallarta. I'm glad to say we had about 150 veterans and their family members come out.
Do they still sell the poppies?
Yes, they do.
And
Yes, they do.
Give out Tootsie Rolls?
Yeah, we
My
do
mother and
all
father
that
both,
stuff.
military, and so I remember helping my mom. I probably ate more than I gave out, but I love Tootsie Rolls. That's a great program, though.
We had about 150 veterans and their family members come out, and it was absolutely beautiful because we didn't just have it as an American Veterans Day. I'm sure, as you know, the Canadians also have Remembrance Day
too, yes.
And it's on the same day. And we also invited the local Mexican military as well. So we had a good mix in the audience of former U.S. military and Canadian veterans, and also active duty Mexican military that were in the audience as well, and their families. And to that part, I'd like to say that actually 30 to 40% of the men and women in my post are veterans. Are married to Mexican nationals.
Great.
Married to Mexican nationals. So a lot of us have dual citizen kids and have dual citizenship ourselves. So we make it a thing to invite the locals and be involved in the community as well during all of our events that we do. And we had the U.S. Embassy came out, the local mayor, Profe Luis Michel, came out to visit us, and it was a very, very good event. At the end of last year, we did for Christmas Eve, we donated 100 chickens to underprivileged families in Puerto Vallarta through what's called the DEEF system, which is their social service system. And then for Dia de Reyes, at the beginning of this year, on January 6th, we donated over 500 new toys.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Now, you all always have I guess in the States called the Marine Toys for Tots drive, and they used to have a big fundraiser dinner here that I used to go with, Kelly Trainer and Dennis Commander and all those people, to that. And then they gave out the toys sometime in January. I think you said the 6th this year?
Yeah, so there was actually two projects this year. So the Toys for Tots project was started by the Jay Sadler Project, which is run by Jay Sadler and Dennis Reich, who are also veterans in my post as well. They've been doing that for well over a decade. So we actually did a separate project this year on top of that.
Wow.
So we were actually involved in two projects. One was with the Jay Sadler Project, but the post itself that I command also ran our own project. And I teamed up with Dr. Carter as well with Hops for Hope. Together we raised between $2,000 and $3,000 from several to a dozen donors, and we used that to purchase over 500 new toys that went out to underprivileged families in Puerto Vallarta for Dia de Reyes, and it was an absolutely beautiful thing. I got to tell you, Mike, we got the privilege to get to see on the TV and on social media some of the kids that received our toys.
And that's probably the only toys they got.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's a very important project that you all did, and thank you for that. Dr. Carter was telling me he had 2 PhDs. I told him I had one. Mine's a post hole digger. But I think he's like my wife. My wife has 2 PhDs also, one from the University of Guadalajara, one from the University of Oviedo in northern Spain. So we get to go back and forth between universities, and it's very important. But you mentioned you had a program coming up, or a project that's going to be next month in March. We're filming this. Today's the 16th of February, 2023, and you got something come up March.
Yep. So let's
what is
talk
that?
about
Let's talk about that project.
Sure. So after the great success we had with our toy program that we did, the toy drive and the chicken dispensement, we decided to look for some more projects going forward at a larger scale that could really, really help the community. The projects we did, the toy drive, the chicken dispensement, really made a big impact. But I think we have a chance with the American Legion to push some really great projects in the community. And one of the things that I noticed, again, I've been down here for about 4 years. I'm a temporary resident. Dr. Carter is a permanent resident himself. Is we've noticed that it's a medical tourist zone, right? Very, very popular if you want to come down here and get cancer treatment, if you want to get orthopedic surgery, plastic surgery, things like that.
Dental work, a lot of people
work,
for the dental work.
This is a very popular medical tourist destination. But the reality is that Puerto Vallarta, not more than a decade ago, was a small town, right? small town. In the last 5 years, I mean, I'm sure you've seen dozens upon dozens of skyscrapers have come up. Now that's really good. Actually, Mexico now has the 11th largest economy in the world, has a rapidly growing middle class, especially right here in Puerto Vallarta. Their economy is starting to transition away from tourism and starting to diversify little by little. And that's all great, but one of the things that comes with that rapid growth and progress is, with urbanization, is that certain problems, particularly with mental health, tend to become more prevalent, as you know, in larger cities. And as you know, we've got hundreds of veterans that live here. We got about 800 veterans that live here part-time, about another 200 or so that live here full-time. Many of them struggle with mental health conditions, but also the locals as well. They don't have access to an inpatient facility here, actually. Okay. The nearest facility is all the way out in Guadalajara, in Lake Chapala. So that presents two challenges, Mike. One is accessibility. Obviously, it's a tremendous logistical problem, not just for our veterans in our post, the hundreds of veterans that live here, many of whom struggle from the invisible wounds of war, but it's also a problem for the locals as well. For them, it's not only a logistical problem because they have to get transportation out to that hospital if they need to avail themselves of those services. It's also an economic one. Particularly those that do not have IMSS or any kind of private insurance. There are always people that fall through the cracks, no matter how good the economy is. And so I reached out to the mayor several weeks ago, Profe Luis Michel, he's the municipal president here in Puerto Vallarta, and basically said to him, hey, look, we have a mutual problem that is affecting both our countries and our communities. In particular, the veteran community that has very high rates of disability, particularly with mental health issues, PTSD, depression, stemming from combat service. You also have low-income Mexican nationals that if they're not on the IMS system or don't have a private insurance through their employer, they're not able to access that type of care. They've just been completely priced out. Like I said, with Puerto Vallarta being a medical tourist destination, there are many, many good doctors here. But the flip side of that is, since there's so many Americans and Canadians living here, the prices for those services have gone up.
Yes.
And so we feel, the American Legion and also Hobbs for Hope, we feel that we have an obligation to help and assist in any way that we can with that issue. And that being said, so we reached out to the mayor, and we offered to him that we'd like to help fund the first mental health and wellness clinic here in Puerto Vallarta. It'll be full service, so we won't just have outpatient services. It'll also have inpatient capabilities as well, and the ability to do medication management. And that's actually where Dr. Carter comes in as well, because there's a very, very large LGBT community here in Puerto Vallarta, as you know. And unfortunately, much like veterans, they suffer from very high rates of suicide and depression as well. And so the three target groups we're looking to help are disabled U.S. military veterans suffering from PTSD and depression, low-income Mexican nationals that currently do not have access to that level of care, and also the LGBT community. So I reached out to Dr. Carter. He's a member of my board. As I mentioned, he's the head of Hobbs for Hope, which is an LGBT veterans not-for-profit back in the States.
Okay.
And if
I was never aware of that association, so...
If you'd like to take over.
Well, being a combat veteran myself, a disabled veteran, who struggled to get access to the benefits at the VA, I had already started our organization in 2008 in the United States, and our board decided we really need to focus on helping combat LGBT veterans. Many of them have been denied benefits, and so we focus on that, but we specialize in helping mostly combat veterans, people who've been in combat. And because of that, a lot of times, as Jesse can tell you, that the veteran doesn't have the mental ability sometimes to navigate the VA's complex system to get their benefits, and that's where we step in to help out a lot. And I was looking for a location outside of the U.S. to have a wellness center for veterans, which is why I ended up, after looking at several countries, ended up picking Mexico and picking Puerto Vallarta in particular, because I found that the climate's great. Well, except for maybe June, July, and August, but the climate is generally pretty good.
It's a little warm that time of year, but I lived here 6 years, and I understand that.
But So we got started, and as we've been doing our work, Jesse and I's paths crossed, and I think, we found we had a lot of the same goals, to help the veterans, and that's, what we're here to do.
Well, there are a lot of veterans down here, and there's a lot of snowbirds that come and go.
Correct.
Either Canadian, United States, or European, and so it's great that you all are reaching out to them. When you're down here, if you're a vet and you're listening to the program on YouTube and you're down here and you're going to be here for a week, or if you're a snowbird, you're going to be here for 4 or 5 months, or if you're going to be coming down an expat, reach out to Jesse or Dr. Carter and get connected with them so you can have the information that you may need, may not, or some of your friends or some of your fellow vets. And it's a great what you're doing. I really appreciate it. Now, is there a certain thing you're going to start? I mean, is there a date that you're having a special event or something?
Sure. So we've already done the inspection with the local mayor's office of the facility. So we already have this facility and property picked out. We also met with the town architect, actually, myself and Dr. Carter and I, and the town architect. We met actually just about a week ago, I'd say, give or take. And as we speak, the town architect is drawing up a design for this facility. So the fundraiser is going to be Wednesday, March 15th at La Capella Italian Restaurant here in Puerto Vallarta. It's all just a few blocks away from the Malecon. Absolutely beautiful restaurant. And so far, between myself and Dr. Carter and I, we've already raised over $8,000 US.
That's fabulous.
So we're well on our way. It's got a very wide range of support, both for anything from the veterans community to local Mexican nationals, and then also the LGBT community as well. So it's really a joint effort, Mike.
Well, it's fabulous that you're reaching out and doing that and starting a new facility where they can be part of the community, but yet have something special for them. Now, I have a couple of questions. I know several years ago, Kelly Trainer, who's a consulate general here, or consulate agent, she helped arrange a lot of medical equipment that the vet hospitals had left over, brought down by one of the Navy and then one of the Coast Guard ships. They brought them down here to get them through customs and immigration and donated them to some of the regional hospitals. And so that was a great thing. And Pam Webb, I don't know if you know Pam or not, but she runs a lot of medical stuff. Pam Thompson, I said Pam Webb, I'm sorry. Pam Thompson runs a lot of medical type facilities here. She was very helpful in that aspect. And so the thing I like about Puerto Vallarta, everybody works together. No matter what charity does what, they try and help each other, and it's just a great working relationship. And you all still have a relationship with the Navy League, to where when the Coast Guard ships or the Navy ships come into port, we used to go take tours of them. Yeah. I used to go out and I went on 4 or 5 different ships, and it was really impressive. Back in the day, all the ships came in. Now the Navy stay off about 4 or 5 miles, and the Coast Guard come on in, but the Navy stay off because of security.
Yeah.
But that's another great organization that's kind of works with the different other groups within Puerto Vallarta, and I know especially.
Yeah, so actually
American
2
Legion.
members of our board are actually on that board as well, John Murphy and Dennis Reich, as well as you know. But actually, several months ago, they're actually in the process of closing their AC down at the moment.
Oh, is that right?
Yes, and actually about several months ago, I was approached by the State Department, and basically what's going to happen now is, going forward, all the events when the ships come into port are actually going to be going through the American Legion Post 12.
Well, that's great.
So
it's better that the Department of State contacts you instead of the Internal Revenue Service, or Department of Justice.
So we
If
actually
those guys call, don't answer their phone.
we just hosted our first ship, actually, the U.S. Coast Guard Cutter Alert, WMAC 630. About several weeks back at Murphy's Irish Pub, which is, as you know, is the hub
I've been
of our
there a
post.
lot of times. There's a great big flag there that says Murphy's Irish. That says Murphy's Beer.
Yeah.
I brought that back from Dublin, Ireland, for John a couple years ago.
So, and then it was basically changing of the guard, if you will. So the Vallarta Navy League, from what I understand, is they're going to continue to come to our events going forward and co-host the events with us. But
That's
but
great.
going forward, it is an American Legion operation, and like I said, we just did the U.S. Coast Guard Cutter Alert. That was several weeks ago, and it was really great. I got to tell you, Mike, we rearranged a volleyball game between the Mexican Navy and the U.S. Coast Guard. Do not ask me who won. It was not to our guys' favor. First, they wanted to do a soccer game, but I helped.
Well, that wouldn't have even been a game.
I helped convince them that would be a very bad idea. I tried to get them to go for a baseball game, but the Mexican Navy wouldn't have it. So we settled on volleyball, which gives no advantage to either side. But it was really great. It was really great. And about 30, 40 sailors came out to the game from the U.S. Coast Guard Cutter Alert and participated in the volleyball game. Afterwards, the captain and crew, Captain Schofield, and the ship's operations officer, Geyer Bogan, gave a tour of the vessel to myself, members of my post, and also some members of the Mexican Navy, and we were really thankful to him. It was really great. And then afterwards, we skedaddled on over to
Murphy's and had a couple of glasses of milk.
It was great. It was great.
Well, I want to say thank you very much for taking the time. In closing, is there anything, again, the event is at what restaurant and on what day and what time?
Sure. Yeah. So the event is for the future DIF clinic. You're going to edit that, right? The first full-service mental health and wellness clinic in Puerto Vallarta. We are going to have the fundraiser for that on Wednesday, March 15th from 12 to 3 at La Capella Italian Restaurant here in Puerto Vallarta. Again, that's Wednesday, March 15th, 12 to 3.
The Ides of March.
Ides of March at La Capella Italian Restaurant. We encourage you all to come. Tickets are 750 pesos a person, payable at the door. And again, all the funds that we get from this fundraiser, which we're co-organizing, co-hosting with the local mayor, Profe Luis Michel, and also with Dr. Carter with Hops for Hope, all the funds that we raise that day are going to go towards making this clinic a reality, helping to, paint it, get the food, supplies, medications, hire some staff. Everything's going to go to get this clinic up and running and fully operational. We definitely need your support. We look forward to it. And I encourage you, if you're in town on that day, again, Wednesday, March 15th from 12 to 3 at La Capella, we encourage you to come on down and help us get this thing going and help us to realize Puerto Vallarta's first full-service mental health and wellness clinic, Mike.
And if you can't make it on March 15th, be sure to contact Jesse or Dr. Carter, send a check in, send some money. Just because you can't be at the event doesn't mean you can't support this fabulous clinic for the mental health of all the different veterans, the mental health of the local community, and the LBGYT community. They got so many letters now, I just call them the alphabet people.
Correct, yes.
Every year when they have the Vallarta Pride, I always have the committee on my show, and I just couldn't remember all the ones, so I just started calling them the alphabet people, and that was well accepted by them, matter of fact.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much for your time, Jesse.
It's a pleasure. Thank you, Mike. Appreciate
Dr.
it.
Carter,
Thank
look
you
forward
so
to seeing
much.
you again, and again, thank you very much for everything you've done.
Yes, sir. Take care.
All right, we're going to close out this episode of Expat Conversation with Michael Nolen. I want to say thank you very much. And if you're watching the program, if you have some friends that are vets or living in the Lake Zapala area where there's a lot of expats, San Miguel Aliente, or of course the Bay of Banderas, please send this link to them and let them watch the show, and so they can learn more about what's going on and then possibly help out from afar. And if you're a vet, if you're watching from anywhere and you're down here, be sure to go by the post and have a good time and visit with the people and catch up and tell what we used to call war stories, which a lot of them are peacetime stories, thank God. But meet up with a lot of great people and have a lot of fun. So again, thank you very much. We'll see you on the next chapter of Expat Conversation with Michael Nolen. Thank you for tuning in.
Happy trail.